Salazar, and I am super excited to be here. And thank you all for coming. Thank you to Michaels for hosting this class. And I hope everyone enjoys themselves. I am the creative manager over at Premier Yarns. So today we're going to go over a really great pattern, which is the orange slice dishcloth. It's a great beginner pattern because we're going to kind of go over a few different stitches that you need to know to crochet. And I'm going to go over the pattern with you. So we're going to do a little bit of reading patterns and understanding patterns. So ask questions if you have any. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the chat if anyone needs anything, and we can just go ahead and get started and we can jump into the supplies. Okay. So let's switch to my hand camera so I can show everyone what we're using. Okay, so this is, there we go, great. Here's the pattern, should be in the chat. So you can print it out. Hold on, get something here. So you can, uh-oh, did you lose me? Did you lose me?
Yeah, sorry, we lost you, Liz. I think you might need to rejoin.
Okay. Okay, hold on, let me. No, I don't want to use Siri.
In the meantime, I just dropped the instructions into the chat if everyone would like to take a look.
Okay, I think I'm almost there, guys. Here we go.
Oh,
Yes, I'm gonna get my hand view back if I can flip this. Hopefully we're back to the hand view.
Not yet.
No?
Or let's see.
I can see it on my end.
I see it. Okay, now I see. Okay, yep, here we go. So you're flipped a little sideways again.
Okay. Yeah, this does not want to work for me. Okay, let me see. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. Spotlight is. Can you see me okay like this?
That looks great.
Okay, I'm not going to touch anything. So hopefully that will work. Here is Premier Home Cotton. This is what we're using. Thank you to everyone for being patient, but I think we're good now. This is a 100% cotton. This is great for dishcloths and other home projects because it's sturdy and it stands up well to washing and drying. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So we lost a few minutes. I'm going to use my 5mm hook. The pattern says 4.5 millimeter, but you can use whatever hook that is going to give you the right gauge. With a dishcloth, it's not super important because it can be a little bit smaller or a little bit larger, but normally you're always going to want to keep your gauge in mind when you're doing any crochet. So let's start, as we always do, with a slip knot. Just going to put this strand over, and this is how I do it. I just put my thumb and finger in there and do like a little twist, grab that tail, and make a slip knot. There's tons of different ways to do it. That's how I do it. And we're just going to start out with a chain of 33. So be nice and loose. Don't kind of do it too tight or you won't be able to work back into those chain stitches. And I'm going to do this nice and slow for everyone. So if you want, you can just work right along with me if you have your pattern and your yarn handy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. And I saw somebody asked about the sizes. I should have actually showed you guys this. This is the size that was made in the office. I didn't make this one, but the pattern said a 4.5 millimeter. When I started with a 4.5 millimeter, this is how, see how much smaller it was? So that's why we always tell you to pay attention to your gauge, because depending on how you crochet and what hook you use, what size, and even what brand hook, you're going to come out with a different size. You know what? So if it's a shirt or a hat, you're going to really want to pay attention to that. A dishcloth, it could be a little bit smaller or bigger. But this is how it turned out with a 4.5 millimeter. So I wanted to use a little bit of a larger one so you can like see my stitches better. But this is what it's going to look like in the end. And it's a pretty simple repeat. So once you get the repeat down, you can just keep going with it. So now I've got my foundation chain of 33 stitches. And I always like to go into these, you see these little back bumps here? That's how I always like to work and when I'm working into a chain, because it's going to make the cleanest finish for your edges. So this right here is my first chain, and this right here is my second chain. So we want to go directly into that second chain. So I'm just going to insert right under that back bump, yarn over, pull that through. Now we have 2 loops and we yarn over and pull through 2. So single crochet in the second chain from the hook. That's what I just did. And then we're going to single crochet in each chain across till we have 32 single crochets. So we're just going to repeat what I just did. Here's the next little bump. And like I said, I'm going kind of back to basics with everybody. So in case we have some newbies here, some new crocheters, we always start with a single crochet. Usually learn that first, and then a double crochet. And then once you get the hang of those basic stitches, you can do just about anything. So I'm just going right under that back bump to work my first row of single crochets. Because we chained 33 and we started with the second chain, that means we're going to end up with 32 single crochets. And we're going to also do some post stitches here. So if you haven't done post stitches, I'm going to show you how to do the front post stitch and the back post stitch for this pattern. And we'll work a few rows of the pattern together, and then towards the end of class, we're going to do a little border. I'm going to show you some tips for doing a border and for doing it in different colors if you want. But right now we're just doing row 1, which is all single crochet. yarn over and pull through. So this is like a fun weekend project. You can kind of make it in definitely in a weekend, in a few hours, really. And these are washcloths are great, great beginner projects because they're quick. So you get that like instant gratification of making something. And you can learn all kinds of different stitches without doing anything too complicated. So that is my first row, which is all single crochets. And I like to go over the pattern because I hear a lot of times people know a lot about crochet, but they don't know a lot about pattern reading. So it's always a good skill to have because most patterns, they try to write them the same with the same language and keep it consistent. So here we have a chain 3, which that counts as the double crochet. So then we're going to double crochet in the next 2 single crochet. And there's that little star, and I'll tell you what that star means after we work those first couple instructions. So here's my chain 3. I'm just going to chain up 1, 2, 3 to bring my up to the height of the stitch of a double crochet. Now this is the single crochet right here. You see the V. We're going to go right into that single crochet with a double crochet. And that's a yarn over. Insert your hook under both loops of the V. Yarn over. See, I have 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to pull through 2 and then yarn over again and pull through 2. And then I do that same thing. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's a double crochet. So we start out with 3 double crochets because the first one counts as a stitch, the chain 3. And then we're going to, it says SK2 single crochet. So that means skip 2. We're going to skip 2. And then whenever you see the parentheses like this, that means you're going to do what's in the parentheses all into the same space or stitch. So we're going to skip 2, and then into this next stitch, we're going to do 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. So I'll do that nice and slow, and then we'll speed it up a little bit because it's all pretty much the same from here. So we did skip 2. Here's 1, here's 2, and then we're just going to do next stitch, a double crochet, another double crochet into the same stitch, chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going back into that same stitch, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and one more time. So as you can see, I have 2 double crochets, a chain 2, and 2 double crochets in the same single crochet. I put it all in there, which is in the parentheses. Now we're going to skip 2 single crochets and repeat from the star 3 more times. So after we skip 2 single crochets, we're going to go right back to here where that star was. So skip 2, skip, skip, and then back to the star, which is double crochet in the next 2 single crochets. So if you're working along with me, you can read along with the pattern and see kind of how it all comes together in written instructions. Now skip 2, skip, skip, and then do that, what was in the parentheses, which is double crochet, chain 2, and then double crochet and double crochet. Maria says, where do I find the pattern? The pattern is in the, should be in the chat. So you can just download it and print it off. So now we're going to skip, skip, and work 2 more double crochets, 1 and 2, Going too fast. Okay, I'll slow down, don't worry. See what I've gotten so far? We're going to kind of do the same thing over and over. The next row is where we start the post stitches, but right now we're just doing skipping and working double crochets, and then I'm going to skip and skip those two. And now I'm going to do what's in the parentheses, which is a double crochet, another double crochet, chain 2, 1 and 2, double crochet, and double crochet. So I've made that little kind of fan looking stitch. Skip, skip. I'm going under both stitches of both of the loops. Looks like a V, so they say, okay, there's the V. You go under both loops of the V, and now I'm going into the next stitch under both loops of the V. And now I'm going to go skip, skip. And now we're making our little fan, which is a double crochet, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, double crochet. Now that was, it said to repeat it 3 times. And I'm going to show you. So here we go. It says do from here where the star is, right? To here where it ended, which is where that little semicolon is. We have to do that 3 times. So we did it at the beginning and do it 3 more times. So for a total of 4. Now we did what was in the parentheses. And now it says skip 2 single crochet. So I should end on skipping the 2 single crochet because that's where the little semicolon is. So that's where I should end. And then I skip over to the last bit of the instructions, which is double crochet in the last 3 single crochet. So here's where I ended on my repeat, skip, skip. That's the end of my repeat. And that leaves me with 3 more stitches. And I'm just going to work a double crochet into those last 3. 1, 2, and 3. Very last single crochet. So that is what our kind of our setup looks like. Now we're going to work on row 3, which is going to be the right side of our work. It says RS, that means right side. So of course we always turn at the end of the row when we're working flat in rows like this. So we're just going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and turn. And you can turn and then chain up. It doesn't, it's just depends on how you do it. Either way is fine. So I chained up 3, that counts as my double crochet. It always does in this pattern, and it should always specify whether or not it counts as a double crochet because most of the time it does if it's a chain 3. And now we're going to do the front post double crochet. So let me show you how to do this. If you haven't done it, we're working around the post of the stitch. And if you can see this whole part of the stitch from the top to the bottom, this is the top of the stitch. Move that out of the way so you can see. This is the top of the stitch where the V is, the loop and the loop. And this is the post of the stitch, the long part. We're going to work around that post like that. That's the long part. That's the post. So to do a front post double crochet, you are going to start with your yarn over, and then we're going to insert our hook from the front of the work to the back. So you see I'm going through that hole to the back, and then I'm going to bring my hook back to the front. And as you can see, the post is sort of wrapped around the hook. And since I have my yarn over ready to go, I just yarn over again, pull that through. So I have 3 loops on my hook, which is what you always have at this point in a double crochet. And then you yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Now I'm lost. Don't worry, we're going to do it a few more times, Carol. So if you can do a double crochet, you can do this. It's the same thing. It's just worked in a different place. So we'll do it again slowly. We're going to start with a yarn over, which is how you always start a double crochet. Does gauge work for what? Let me just see this question. Does gauge work for what yarn I'm using? So your gauge is going to depend a lot on your yarn, your hook, and how you crochet. So that's why we tell you to always measure the gauge, whether, you know, if you want to substitute yarn or something like that. For a dishcloth, it's not going to make that much of a difference, because if your dishcloth is a little bigger or a little smaller, you can still wash dishes with it. But always check your gauge if you're making like something that needs to fit. Okay, so let's do this. Yarn over. Now, as you can see, I'm working in. I want to work around this post. So in order to get around that post, I have to insert my hook from the front to the back, and then just turn it so I'm coming back around from the back to the front. And then just complete the double crochet. So you're going to yarn over. See how I've done it just around that post? Pull that through until you have your 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Just like a double crochet. This is how we make cables with post stitches. Front post stitches, back post stitches. You can make lots of gorgeous, thick, textured cables with those. So that was our post stitches, but don't worry, we're going to do a bunch more of those. That was our front post. So now it says 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet in the chain 2 space. So remember, since it's in parentheses, that means we're going to do everything within those parentheses into that chain 2 space. Okay. Here's the chain 2 space. It's the next one, so you kind of know intuitively that's where we're going to go. So we're going to skip these double crochets. And then we're just going to put the same sort of fan in here that we did here. So it's just double crochet, double crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, and then 2 more. Remember, it all goes in that same space. See how we put all the stitches in the chain 2 space. Now we're going to hop over to here. Look at the pattern, because I mean, I can tell by looking at it what we need to do next. But when you're not familiar with reading patterns, you kind of have to know like what the pattern is telling you to do. Okay, so we just did that, what was in those parentheses. And now it says skip 2 and then repeat from the star 3 more times. So we're going to repeat from right here, which are the post stitches. So that skip 2 is referring to these 2 double crochets. So we're going to skip those 2. And we're going to go right over to these 2 standalone double crochets to work our post stitches around them. Okay, so remember, we're going to start with our yarn over. Now we're going to go in from the front. When I say the front to the back, you're kind of going, just imagine you want this stitch to be pushed out. You're pushing this stitch out. That's how it will end up looking textured like this, like it's laying on top of the fabric, because we're pushing it out. And the way we push it out is to work around the posts rather than working into the top of the stitch like you normally do. So we're going to insert from the front to the back and then the back to the front. So we pushed that post out and then just yarn over, pull that through until you have your 3 loops on the hook, pull through 2 and pull through 2. Whenever I say pull through, you have to do the yarn over first. There's your yarn over. We're going from the front to the back, essentially. So you're, you don't have to go all the way to the back and then all the way back. You really just want to go around that post. So you're just going to insert your hook. So you're pushing that stitch out, and then just complete the double crochet around that stitch. Do you actually go into the post? Not really, you go around it, yeah. So here's our little fan. These fans, we're doing the same thing over and over and over. So you should get the hang of this. It's just 2 double crochet around into the chain space. When I say the chain space, you see those 2 chains I made? That's my chain space. Right? So we just do those 2 double crochets into that chain space. When I do the next row, I'll be working into this chain space. I've made a space by putting chains in there. Okay, let's get back to the post stitches. Yarn over, try to get as close as I can. See, I'm not going into the top, I'm going just basically around it so I can work around it. See how the yarn went around that stitch? It wrapped around it. And then you just yarn over, pull through 2 and pull through 2. I'm going around it. Three loops on the hook. That's how a double crochet will always be at this point. And then yarn over, pull through the first 2, and then yarn over, pull through the next 2. Back to our little shell, fan, whatever you want to call it. It's just 2 double crochets, a chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets. 1, 2, first one, and do you actually? 4 fans, 1 and 4 repeats, right? So that's a good thing to point out. So you see how we've done, how it says 3 more times. So it does get confusing. People think, well, then how come I don't have 3 fans? I have 4. So you're going to do, what they do is they spell out the instructions first. Okay, this is what you're going to do specifically into those stitches from here to here. And then all we want you to do is just repeat that 3 more times, not 3 times, 3 more times. So in addition to the first time that you already did it, 3 more times. Hopefully that makes sense the way I said it, because people do get confused about that. Sort of, sometimes you'll see it and it will just say 3 times. Okay, well then you just have to do that 3 times. If it says 3 more times, it's a repeat of what you've already been instructed to do. 3 more times. I hope that makes sense. Oh, we're back to some more posts. Here we go. So we're just going in from the front to the back, and wait till we get the next row. We're going to do back post stitches. So that's going to be fun too. So it's kind of the reverse of what we're doing now. We're going in from the front to the back. The goal is to push that stitch out so it's sort of sticking up, and we just work around the post. Back to the fan. 1, 2, and it's technically it's called 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. That's what it is, but I'm just calling it a fan. Okay, now here we are at the end. We've got 3 stitches left. So what do you think we're going to do? We did our repeat 3 more times. So now it just says front post double crochet around the next 2 double crochet, and then half double crochet in the top of the beginning chain 3. So let's see what that looks like. That's going to work, we know, because we have 3 stitches left. Remember, this is the chain 3 that we started with at the previous row. So we're just going to do our post stitches. That's 1. And around the post, that's another 1. Now, what do I have left here? This is that chain 3 that we did at the beginning of the previous row, and it looks kind of weird. But when you're working with chains like that, it often does not have the best appearance. So what they want us to do is put a half double crochet in the top of that turning chain. So if you can see, they get twisted, but not really twisted, but they're hard to see. This is a chain right here. This is a chain right here. And then this is the last chain from that beginning chain 3. It's right there. So what I'm going to do is work a half double crochet, which is a yarn over, and then 1, 2, into that third chain, which is the top of the turning chain. I'm going to yarn over. So now I have 3 loops on my hook. And instead of like a double crochet where we yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, we're just going to yarn over and pull through all 3. And that's a half double crochet. So we only end with the half double crochets in this pattern. That's the only time they appear. And the reason we end with the half double crochets is because when you do post stitches, they don't sit up as tall as regular double crochets. And you can see that here. You see how it's like up high and then it goes down lower and up high, but these are all double crochets. But because it's not in the top, it's around the post, it's going to be a little bit shorter. So in order to end at the same height, we end with a half double crochet instead of a double crochet. So now look at this. We are on to row 4. We have 2 more rows and then it's just basically a repeat of the rows we've already worked. So on row 4, we're going to start with a chain 3 and then we're going to do back post double crochet around the front post double crochets. This is the front of our work, right? If we turn our work, which we do, we have to, this is what the back looks like. If we work front post stitches, what are we going to do to these stitches that we already made? We're going to push them to the front. We don't want them to the front on this side. We want them to the front on this side of our work only. So they all line up in the front here, not here. If we put them to the front, they would be like that. And it would look more like a ribbing pattern. And that's not what we want. So to maintain that textured pattern, we have to work back post stitches. We're on a website. Yes, the videos. Okay, I just wanted to check my chat and make sure I didn't have any burning questions. So this is where we ended. We're gonna chain up 3 and turn our work. So here we go. Here's the back post stitch. We're working a back post stitch around a front post stitch. We're going to do the opposite of what we did before. So rather than going in from the front to the back, we're going to go in from the back to the front, if that makes sense. So it's going to be a double crochet, which always starts out with a yarn over. Okay, so now here's my stitch that I want to work around this post right here. So I have to take my hook around the back. Okay, there it is. It's in the front and then back from the front to the back. And as you can see, it looks just like it did before, but it's on the opposite side, the wrong side of our work. So now you just have to yarn over and pull it through. And once you have those 3 loops on your hook, you know what to do. You yarn over, pull through 2, and then you yarn over and pull through 2. Let's do that again. So yarn over, and we are starting from the back of our work to the front, and then from the front to the back. Just like we did before, we're going around the post with a yarn over, pull it through. Now that we have 1, 2, 3 loops on the hook, we can yarn over and pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through 2. Now, as you can see, it looks like this in the back, but if you turn it, it looks like this on the front, which is how we want it to look. We want all those post stitches to be showing in the front of the work. Okay. Now this is basically the same thing we've been doing. We've got our parentheses. We're going to do 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet in the chain 2 space. and then skip 2 double crochet, and then repeat from star 3 more times. So row 4 is basically the same as row 3, except we're working back post double crochets and we are on the back side or the wrong side of our work. So you're maintaining the same pattern, but you have to do it with back post stitches because we're working the wrong side. Okay, so here's our little 2 double crochet, chain 2. My count is off. I made a mistake somewhere. Just watch and rewatch. Yeah, so you can always watch and then rewatch it. And it may be from like here, it gets a little different because we have 3 double crochets and 3 double crochets in the beginning and at the end. So you may have maybe just not did enough there or something. But if you have these 4 fans like this, and each fan should be separated by your post stitches, then you're doing all right. Okay, so let's just do, and remember, I'm just calling it a fan. It's just a 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, but that's a lot to say. So we're going to call it a fan. Now we're going back to our back post stitches. Yarn over. Here I'm coming in from the back. See, here's how you normally would go, right onto the top of your work. All you have to do is just sort of move your hook so you're working it in the back, right? And if you have to hold that yarn over with your finger, then just do that so it doesn't fall off. You're coming in from the back to the front and then around the post. So if I went like this, I would go around both of those posts. See that? If I just went in there. So we have to make sure we're only going around one post. And there it is. And then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so from back to front. There's my post, yarn over. And I've got my 3 loops on my hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Back post is more awkward. It will take some getting used to. It really does, but once you just, probably if you did this dishcloth, if you did the whole thing, you would get the hang of it and you'd be quick, because it does take some getting used to, but it doesn't take long to get used to it. Now we're doing our 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then just think how many cool cable patterns you can make once you learn these post stitches, because that's all it is. That's what cables are, post stitches. They get worked in different areas, like you have to cross over and work a post stitch over here or over here, but it's just still working post stitches. So this is a good way to start with them because we're working them on top of each other, not like going over here and working one here or here like you would in a cable, but you're just working them right on in line with row by row. So once you get this, you're going to be able to do cables. I know it. Okay, so yarn over. We're going to go from the back to the front, and then the front to the back, and then yarn over. So once you've got your 3 loops, you just pull through 2 and pull through 2. And make sure you're going around the right post. This is the post I want to go around, the correct post. And I'm going to go from the back, and I'm coming into the front, and then I'm just going back around from the front to back. And you can see, if you can see that the post is like sort of sitting over your hook like that, that's what you want it to look like. And then yarn over, pull that right through, pull through 2 and pull through 2. Yes, took me a bit to get the flow of the front and back, but I got it down. Yep, it is a fun stitch, and just as with everything else, practice makes perfect. And this is a good practice. If you're new, if you're just starting out, dishcloths are great to make. Just make some dishcloths and then do maybe a scarf and then maybe a blanket. And then once you get the hang of it, next thing you know, you'll be making sweaters and cardigans. and toys. Okay, so I'm coming from the back, right? And then back to the front, yarn over, pull through 2 and pull through 2. Liz, I really like your crochet hooks. These are Susan Bates. Oh, it's blurring out. My phone doesn't want to focus it, but these are Susan Bates hooks. I like these because they're the inline ones, and that's just what I'm used to. So we're doing another back post stitch and 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. Now we're at the end. So we did what our repeat was 3 times. And let's see, where are we here? Okay, so we did our 3 times. And then as you can tell, we're just going to do back post double crochet around the next 2 double crochet. And then we're going to do that half double crochet in the top of the turning chain of the previous row. Do you start with 33? Yeah, so you start with 33 chains, and then you're going to single crochet into the first, not first, you're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and then the rest of the chain, right? So the second chain, that means you skip the first chain, then you should end up with 32 single crochets. So that's why we have 32 and not 33, because we skipped that first chain. So here we go at the very end. Let's do 2 more back post stitches. I'm going to come in from the back to the front. I'm going to make sure we go around the post and then yarn over, pull through 2 and yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, start with a yarn over. Here's my last post stitch. So you can see it gets a little fiddly when you get to the end. There's that post stitch. We have to work around that one. So even if you see, I'm like this, I'm coming in from the back, but if you sort of just turn your work, you can turn your work. That way you can just go under the stitch, right? Turn your work around to where it's most comfortable for you to work these stitches. No, nobody says you have to keep it like holding it like this, or, you can move it around to work around these stitches. Okay, so there's my chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and I'm just going to work my half double crochet into the top of that third chain, which is right here, and just get in there wherever you can. Yarn over, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Remember, we're making a half double crochet at the end because that's the correct height for the rest of the post stitches. Post stitches are a different height than regular double crochets. They're shorter. So that was row 5. Now, that was row 4. Now row 5 is going to be the same thing with the post stitches. So let's do that again. Like I said, you can finish this whole thing today. You can probably work along with me and just be at the same pace that I'm at here, right? So we can do this together. Okay, so we did a chain 3. We're back to front posts. And you can tell we're back to front posts because we're on the right side of our work. So we want these to continue to be pushed up and facing the right side, okay? So once you make a few post stitches, it's a lot easier to see what you're doing because now they're already pushed up to the front. So now we don't even really have to do much work. We just kind of go, see, I'm just going basically under it. Just putting my hook around the post and then yarn over, pull through 2 and pull through 2. See, once they're already sticking up, they're easy to work into. Now let's do another fan, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. What do you mean by inline hook? Okay, these hooks are inline. They're sort of sharp, and see this hook? See how it's shaped differently at the top? This one has more of a like a sharper edge to it, I guess, and this one's more rounded. So this is called an inline when it has a different, here it's shaped differently. This one's more, I can't think of the word except rounded. This is called an inline hook, and this is called a, I forgot the name of it. There's two types of hooks, inline, and this is the other kind. So if anybody can think of the name, you can tell me, but I only remember inline because those are the only kinds I use. But you'll see different kinds. You'll see it like this, or you'll see it like this. And I don't really know which one is better. I think it's all just a matter of personal preference, or maybe what you started on, what you got used to. I just feel like these catch the yarn better for me personally. But try different hooks, because they're not they're definitely not expensive, so you can try different ones and see what you like. Like these, for example, I think these hooks are like $3. It's not gonna like break the bank if you want to try them out. Inline hooks are just the way they cut the material. Yeah. My mom makes Millie hooks and Crayola, all those strips. Right. So it's just kind of the way the tip looks. It's cut differently. Okay, back to our post stitches. We're going in from the front to the back and the back to the front, which really you're not even doing that much work. You're just going around it. At this point, you're just putting your hook so you can work around that post. See, it gets really easy once you've got your sort of post stitches already going in a line like this. It's inline or tapered. Yes, that's it, tapered. Thank you. Thank you, Nadine. That's my sister's name. Chain two double crochets. And then we just do our post stitches. See, now at this point, we're kind of repeating the same steps that we've been doing since the beginning. And now we're back to the fan. And see, at this point, you almost don't even need the written pattern anymore, because, and then you'll find this with everything, blankets, scarves, or whatever, mostly things that are just worked in like a rectangle or a square. Once you do the same few repeats, you just have to continue to repeat that sequence. So somebody asked if you wanted to make a blanket out of this. So if you wanted to make a blanket, if you needed more stitches, sometimes the patterns will say what the stitch multiple is, but this one doesn't say it. So I don't know how many you would need to start, but you kind of have to figure out like, okay, how many stitches does it take to make this fan, and how many stitches does it take to make these post stitches? And then you have to add the front and the back, and then you use that as the multiple. So it is helpful when they tell you the multiple, but I don't know the multiple to this one. I think it would probably be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 7 plus 2. Could try that. And then we're going to do our fan. 1, 2, chain 2. That might actually work, 7 plus 2, because 30 is a multiple of 7, and then plus 2 would make 32. So that might actually be it. There's my fan. Now we're going to do 2 more post stitches. So let's do, here I am at the end. Here's my last stitch, and I'm just going to work that half double crochet into the top of the turning chain. 1, 2, 3. It kind of gets like it curls over there, so you have to sort of grab it and make your way into that stitch and do a half double crochet. So I want to do one more row with you because the next row is back post stitches. So we'll do one more row of back post stitches, and then I want to talk about this little border that we're going to do here. This was my first time to join Zoom with Michaels. Well, I'm so happy you're here, Sherry. I am so happy you're here, and I'm so happy that everyone else is here and that we got to do this fun little project together. So I'm starting with a chain 3 and I'm turning. Oh, and remember everyone, this is being recorded. You can re-watch it as many times as you want if you missed anything. Here we are on the wrong side of our work. And I just want to do my back post stitches. So these have to continue to be pushed out on this side of the work. So we need to do a back post stitch. So I'm going to start with a yarn over. And then you have to find that post, which is right there. So we're just going to go from back to front and then front to back. And I'm turning it so you can see I'm still just working around that post. The same thing I did on the right side of the work. We're just doing it from the wrong side of the work. Here's my next post stitch right there. So I yarn over, I find that post, and I just work my double crochet right around it. And then we're back to our fan. Double crochet. I'm starting my own YouTube and I wanted to see so I can suggest it on my channel. Nadine is my partner. And Jeanette, thank you. I'm glad you are having fun and doing a YouTube channel. That's going to be a fun adventure, I think. Okay, we're in the back. We're going to do a couple post stitches here, back to front. I'm trying to read the comments to make sure I don't miss anybody. Any questions? Try to keep my work straight. Here's my post. You have to kind of just dig in there and get it. And you'll see when you start making cables, you really have to dig in there and find those post stitches to work around them. So as long as you can work around the post, you can make cables. You just have to find it sometimes. It gets hidden beneath all those other post stitches when they start crossing over and stuff. Okay, there's my post stitches. Let's start with a yarn over, going around that stitch. And yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Here's my next one. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we're going to do our fan. And like I said, at this point, it's kind of just intuitive. We don't really have to look back at the pattern. But of course, it's there if you need it. Joined a little late, that's okay because you can watch the replay. We were just talking about that. Here's my post stitch. I started with my yarn over and then I'm going to go from the back to the front. And then from the front to the back, as long as I get around that post, you can move around your work as much as you need to. So yarn over, around that post, work that stitch right around the post. And then we're back to our fans here. So we've got 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. Okay, we're at the end of this row. And we just have to do 2 more back post stitches, and then we'll do that half double crochet into the top of the turning chain of the previous row. Here's my last post stitch. Here's the turning chain. 1, 2, and 3. There's the third one. So we yarn over, go right into that chain, and then yarn over. Half double crochet is 3 loops on the hook. yarn over, pull through all 3. And then we're just going to turn and continue doing let's go to the pattern. Right here it says repeat rows 4 and 5 until the dishcloth measures 9.5 inches. Right, so if you just could, you could make a big scarf out of this if you just kept going until it's the length of a scarf. But for the dishcloth, you just have to measure it when you're at 9.5, then you go to the next row. And the next row is back post double crochet. Okay, so this is kind of like the border row. So let's do the border row. I'm not sure how much time we have here. Let's see. Let's do with, we'll just do it with this one. Okay. I'm going to show you how to do the border. So the last row, once we've worked this, pretend we worked it until it's like 9.5 inches. And then it says on the wrong side, which we're on the wrong side. Remember, this is the wrong side. We're going to chain up 3 and then back post around. Let me see this. Okay, hold on. We're going to pull this one out so we're on the wrong side. Because the last row is kind of a little bit different. It's sort of like the end of it, like the opposite of the setup row, but it has to be worked on the wrong side. You have to be starting on the wrong side, which is this side. So we're going to start with 2 back, we chained up 3. We're going to do 2 back post double crochets, which is what we just did on the last row. 1, 2. And I think this row is so that way it makes it a little bit easier to work the border into there. Okay, and then we're just going to do chain 2 and then 2 single crochet into the chain 2 space, it says. And then chain 2 and then skip 2 double crochet, repeat from star. So instead of doing our fan like we have been doing, we're just going to do chain 2 and then do 2 single crochets into this space here. And this is just to even out the edge so it doesn't have those little dips. And then chain 2, skip 2, repeat from star. So the star starts with the back post double crochets. That's 1 and 2. Chain 2 and then 2 single crochets. Single and single. Chain 2. Back post. Back post. I always kind of just move my work around as needed. Chain 2. Single and single. I'm going to go fast a little bit because I want to show you the border. Back post, chain 2, single, single, back post, oops, I think I did one more chain 2. Back post until I get to the very end. And then of course, we're going to do the same thing, which is the half double crochet in the top of the turning chain. Now, as you can see, all that did was kind of square it off a little bit, so it doesn't have all those dips. And now we can work a nice smooth border around it. So I'm just going to start my border from here. Now, of course, pretend this is the whole washcloth and we're done with it. It's the right size and we're just going to work a border. So you don't even really have to fasten off and start doing anything else. You can just chain up 2 right here or 1. Doesn't really matter. We'll start with 1. And these are the row ends, right? These are not stitches. This is the ends of the rows, but we have to work around these. row ends to make a border. So you just have to find a nice little space where it looks like it might want to go in. And just work a single crochet into there. Okay, this is the side of a stitch. I don't really like to work around the whole thing because then it puts big holes. So if you can, just kind of go into it like that. And there's not really a whole lot of rhyme or reason to this. It takes some getting used to, but this is how you work into the row ends. Okay, there's a nice little hole. I'm just going to go right into there. And I don't like this to make a big hole here, so I'm going to try to go into that one there. Kind of just, that one looks good. You kind of just feel around it to see. Here's a long stitch. I'm going to go into the side of that. And now, as you can see, I kind of just made a little border, right? Once you get to the corner, you have to turn the corner. You always have to increase at the corners because if not, it will curl up like this. So here's a little corner. So we're just going to put 3 single crochets into that corner, and there's a little hole right there that looks perfect for that. So I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, all into that same space. And that is how I turned the corner. So it lays flat, okay? Now we're back on, see, this is where we started. This is the foundation chain. Now these have nice stitches. We can work right into there. So we're gonna do single, single. There's a V here because we worked into the back bump of the chain. That's why it's good to work into the back bump of the chain, because now we've got this nice stitch that is actually the opposite side of the starting chain. See, we worked into the starting chain. This is the opposite side of the starting chain. So if you ever see a pattern and it says work into the opposite side of the starting chain, that's exactly what we're doing now. We're working into because we worked into the back bump, and then we have this nice little V left over, so we can work right into that V, as though it's just a regular single crochet stitch. So this part's easy. It really is only a little tricky when you're working into row ends, but you'll do that a lot in crochet because you have to do borders and things like that. So it's always good to learn how to work into the row ends, and it takes some practice because you don't really know how many stitches to add there. You just have to make them nice and even. See, right now I'm just working into these V's, so I'm going to do a single crochet into every single stitch that presents itself. But once you get to the row ends, you kind of have to make a judgment and try to space them evenly. And sometimes you won't, you'll have too many or too few, and you just have to pull it out and start over. So here, I worked a whole row of single crochets into the opposite end of the starting chain. I'm back at a corner, and I have to do the same thing in the corners. We have to increase, just like a granny square. So we're just going to do 1, 2, 3, all in the same space to turn the corner. Now here's another stitch, which is sort of, you see, if I go like that, it makes a great big hole. So, I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but if you can just get right inside there, that's what I like to do. That's the end of a row. Here's the end of a row. Here's the end of a row. Sometimes it's a little tight. Here's the end of the row. Like I said, there's no real, you just have to put your hook where it looks like it wants to go, where it looks like it might make a nice little single crochet there. and try to make them nice and even as possible. And put another one here. And now we're back up to the top. Just do the same thing. We turn the corner by doing 1, 2, 3. And then we can just do some more single crochets into the top of this, right? So here's a post stitch. We're going to go into the top of there and the top of there. These are chains, so we'll just work right around the chains. Here's a single crochet and a single crochet. See, that's a chain 2, but I might only want to put 1 single crochet in that chain 2 space because I think 2 is too crowded there. See, that's a little too crowded. But I'll put 1 in each of the post stitches. 1, 2. There's another chain 2 space. Some more single crochets, another chain 2 space. At the point where you're working the border, unless the pattern specifies, put this many stitches around this area, because sometimes it will, if you have like a stitch multiple that you need to follow. But for this pattern, it just says make a border. So we are going to make a border however we see fit with however many stitches we feel like using. So that way, so that it looks nice and even and doesn't pull or look like, you know, there's too many in one space. So there's back to the front. So now you can see we just made a nice little quick border around the whole dishcloth, just like you see here. And that was all they did. We just did around the top. We did into the row ends. You can see they just worked those single crochet stitches into the row ends and then did a little bit of an increase in the corners to turn the corners. So let me make sure I am. Where is I just want to check and make sure everybody says thank you, great. I'm glad I don't have any questions. So that means everybody was able to understand me and hopefully crochet along with me and make this fun washcloth. And remember, you can watch this over and over if you want to make another one, or if you didn't get to finish the whole thing. So I want to thank everyone for joining me, and I hope to see you again. I'll probably do another class here soon. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, everyone. Bye, guys.